White line backup system terminal recording. Serial 18847G. User ID. P1L0T. Type. Personal recording. Access. Public. Session initiated. 11:55 Ganymede Standard Time. Entry began.
Gets real lonely out in the back. All that empty space. Nowhere to go, no one to talk to. Someone with a little less conviction might start to lose their nerve if they're out there too long. I don't. I used to have both feet on the ground. Cozy living even. Ma and Pa had jobs dirt side. Keenest biomech. I was lined up to follow suit, and hell, I was good at it, so why not? I always figured if something was easy to do, might as well just do it. Took me a while to realize that not everyone had the gift to take their chances when they come around. But at the first time with my parents, you see, they worked for Yukon. Or rather, they worked for a subsidiary of a subsidiary, an LLC held by a company who shared a CEO with an incorporated financial entity managed by, well, you trace it far back enough and you get to the moose. They were facility documentation efficiency verification executives. Fancy sounding job. Used to think that meant they were important. Told people what to do, made choices, mattered. Sussed out the truth when I was about 8. About titles, the nice ones they give you, the more methane they want you to breathe. Ma and Pa, they did what we better folk in the business call ploughing the shit. Mail duty, paper pushing, things real people are too important to do. I watched them bend their backs over desks, squint at terminals day after day for pittance and cold shoulders from the ones with more expensive positions, people with titles like manager and engineer, saying, "Yes, sir," and "No, ma'am," and "What else can I do for you?" Smiling the whole time like they were happy to do it. That was supposed to be me down the line. They were going to set me up real nice. Hand me that steaming pile of shit and tell me to be grateful for it. Well, even back then, I wasn't going to let life roll me. I wasn't going to thank someone for allowing me to clean up after them. I decided how my life played out, and this shit shoveling wasn't it. They got me a job in the office, and I took it. It was mediocre, stifling, ploughing the shit in coffee runs, but I got close enough to the important people to know what came next. I was a calmer kid back then. I took my time with these things, a bit action shy. Didn't realize how easy it was not only to move the pieces, but to throw the whole damn board. Back then, I hadn't started to play. Spent too long setting up my first move, but I was a snot-nosed little shit. Thought the world had limits for me. I used my off time to get more familiar with the company and the people. Can't play a game if you don't know the rules. I'm a real fast learner about things that matter. I got eyes and, unlike some, I got sense. Inside a month, I sorted out what I needed, who ran things, who thought they did, and what all of them wanted. And I started giving it to them. Along the line, I maybe took a peek at some personal files. Weren't supposed to be doing it, was supposed to be shit shoveling like a good little drone. Could have got canned for even looking where I looked. But people that matter, they see potential. And they don't let it go to waste. So, when I started showing up with the right info at the right time, they noticed. And then, when I started having other things they needed, things that were harder to get your hands on if you wanted them to stay clean, they paid attention. Didn't even have to do it long before they put me right where I wanted to be. Funny, thinking back on it, that something I thought I'd planned so good went so wrong in the best of ways. You ever heard of a perfect storm? Geographical term for those of us from planets with tides and breeze. It's a combination of the worst possible things, the wrong storm colliding with the wrong air current, wrong temperatures at the wrong times, all colliding and happening all at once to form the most devastating, explosive disaster. And it's perfect. That's what I think of when I remember my first job. The beginning of my own personal perfect storm. You want to know the funny thing about killing people? It's easy. Humans, they're fragile. Soggy bags of blood and guts wrapped around a skeleton any half-decent augment can snap in half. Shove them too hard, they crush. Puncture them, they leak. Feed them wrong pump in the wrong atmo, they wither up and die. Don't take no sweat at all. If I'd known that when I got started, wouldn't have put in near so much work. But, see, I bought into it. That line they sell about how difficult it is to take a life, how hard you gotta think before you do. So, little pissant I was, I put my head down and did the work. Laid the plans, mapped out where she went and when, put myself in her path just enough to become invisible. Another shit shoveler to get underfoot. Practically part of the building. And then, when I made my play, pulled out a needle and stuck her, she looked surprised, not scared or hurting, shocked, like the fabber had grown arms and done it. Then I'm standing there with the hypo in my hand, and she's dead, sort of half slid out of her chair and onto the floor, and I'm trying to figure out what the big deal is. What about this kind of work gets folks in a twist? Because like I said, it's real easy.
Entry end. 0105 Ganymede Standard Time. Entry begin.
Now, I know you're wondering, what happens next? Teetering on the edge of your seat waiting to hear more. Well, it happened the way I decided it would, except one little detail. See, for all my work, all my efforts, all my plans, some people just ain't gonna take a chance for themselves. Some people ain't even worth the thought, let alone the action. Shame on them, really. But shame on me for not realising it sooner. Would have thought that, with the vacuum left by our dearly departed manager, my ma and pa would leap at the chance to take her place. They even got a shiny little letter each, offering them a position that they would have never even been considered for if someone hadn't twisted a few arms for them. It would have been a perfect setup, double the money for half the work, easy shit, just as simple as saying, I'll take it, and all of us living free of troubles and never ever hurting for air to breathe again. I never thought, you see, that someone could look at a silver platter handed to them like that and not take it. Could get a present all wrapped up with a pretty bow stuck on and decide, nah, not for me. But some people, they're so fucking defined by their mediocrity. Get so comfy in their average little lives, build themselves little nests like goddamn rats. Can't imagine saying yes to anything better. So, Ma and Pa, they turn it down. And boy, not ashamed to say I didn't see that one coming. Fucking ingrates. Didn't expect them to even ask me which of them should get the spot. They thought I was still a kid. Would have been too much to expect. Rats to see genius. Never figured neither would. But I go into the office the next day and sure enough there's some new arsehole behind the desk smiling like he owns the place. I could have got rid of them in a blink. All of them. The arsehole, Ma, Pa could have just snapped and taken the whole damn building down with me. I didn't, because I'm smarter than that. Real pissed, but smart, kept my cool, kept my head down, and my parents kept their damn shit shoveling. But you know what? I kept what I knew too, and what I'd learned. And I made myself a promise. This was the first and last time I'd helped someone, anyone, besides myself. And no one, not a single soul, was going to get in my way without regretting it, including the small-minded rats that birthed me. 'Cause I still had the body, see? I'd stuck her in a freezer in the cockpit of a trash ship some suit left in storage. Ain't hard to pick locks. Another one of them things I just happened to be real good at. Should have gotten rid of her. Don't know why I didn't. Just had a feeling that I should keep her on hand. Was gonna need her, and like always, turned out to be right. Maybe, if they'd taken the chance I gave them, I would have buried her deep. I would have made sure that no one found the body. And even if they did, they wouldn't have got so much as dental records from what got left behind. But nah, didn't see the point. That was all a whole load of effort for people who ain't gonna ever take a leap for themselves. What's the point in that? To set up a springboard and fill out a pool just for some coward to faint before they reach the ladder? No fucking point at all. And in all my thoughts and fury, something just clicks. It weren't no work at all. So, I go into work the next day and I gotta put in an effort to not look too excited. Keep my head down as always, and of course I pass a few parcels and take a few payments for some side jobs I got under the table, but really, I'm just there to watch the show. I see them storming in, all shiny uniforms and batons, and let me tell you, the look on my parents' faces with them handcuffs slapped to their wrists. It made all the wasted time worthwhile, you know? I don't think they even knew what was happening until they were put on trial. I can't lie, though. I'm a little disappointed. All you investigators and officers and news peddlers, you all missed out the best parts. You left out all the juicy bits. But don't worry, folks, because I'm here to tell you about them.
Entry end. 0312 Ganymede Standard Time. Entry begin.
Now, you're thinking, how did they get from there to here? Maybe their parents didn't want to step up, but they did. Proved they could do it, had the stomach and the know-how to make the moves to go right to the top. How come they ain't climbing that corporate ladder and making damn sure each rung knows it got stepped on? How come they don't got a cushy job and an office and an army of shit shovelers of their own? How come? 'Cause I had me an epiphany. See, it's like this. People who matter, real people, not the rats that run around our feet just waiting to get dropped the crumbs, they belong together. When someone else made of the same stuff comes along, when a person meets another person, something about them, their brains or their guts or maybe their goddamn soul, it grabs hold of the other and it don't let go. Knew I weren't the only real person in the system. Couldn't be. That many lives out there in the black, couldn't all of them be rats? But up till then, I hadn't met anyone outside of me with a gift. And then he came to Gaspera. The beautiful thing is, I didn't have a clue on who I was speaking to. The man walked right up to my face and asked me where to get to the head office. Didn't even blink when I jerked a thumb at the damn signs on the wall. Just smiled that damn smile and asked if I minded showing him the way, in person. I almost did something stupid. Ain't too proud to admit it. Was gonna tell him to screw off. He didn't look like nobody. In fact, he looked like some middle manager who was getting high off ordering round an even bigger nobody than he was. And even when I was shit shoveling, I ain't ever been that low. So I turned around, all ready to tell him he could show his own damn self to hell, but I don't. Got the words all ready to spit out his direction and they just sit there in my mouth instead. Damned if I know why. He does that to you, even when you know who it is you've got in front of you on the comm. So here I am, all ready to tell this gas bag off, and instead I'm showing him around the station. He asks me about the way things work round here, and I ain't got no guard up. I'm still thinking this is some arsehole I gotta show the right doors to, so I'm not thinking. He's smart like that, acting like he don't know nothing, just so he can see what you know. So I tell him, this place runs like an 8-vac, got all the parts in the right places, but don't run to the top specs without a bit of maintenance. His ears prick up at that, so I think maybe he ain't quite so nobody that he can be of some use. And I'm gonna line me up another side job for after hours. Probably something average. Drugs, maybe. All the middle managers are on them. Uppers, reebs, nootropics. Kind of shit you use to tune up the grey matter and seem like you're important when you ain't. Won't touch the shit myself, but money's money, and of course I had a connection. If you can do something well, I already covered that. I'm a real move maker. But he don't follow through. Don't ask for nothing. Don't give me his comm address or ask me to meet him during the light down shift. He just nods and gives me a clap to the shoulder and then walks out before we even get to the room he asked me about. Ain't gonna lie, that got me a little worried. What if I just slipped too much intel to the wrong guy? What if he had mighty ideas about right and wrong and decided I'm not leaning the right way? What if he was a canary, not a rat? But you know what? Even when I thought of that, there was this sense of calm. Like I knew it weren't gonna go bad. It was just another fucking storm preparing to collide with mine and make something new. I see his face again the next morning, plastered up in all the hollow ads, that knowing smile stretched out across his face like he knew I was looking at him. I stood there like a fucking piece of void jerky, gone all blue screen as I read the headline. Mr. Jorgensen, Yukon CEO and founder, tours Kinnis facility on Jasper, hints at possible merger, all there in bright letters. If I'd have just paid more attention to the headlines, maybe I would have had a clue on who I was speaking to, but I knew, deep down, this wasn't a mistake. I'm smarter than that, and I don't forget a face, even the ones that don't matter. He hadn't wanted me to know who he was, why he was talking to me. He wanted to see me in the wild, so to speak, and he liked what he saw. This hollow, this was a message, purposely delayed. A little good morning just for me, so I knew we were playing on the same board. He'd made his first move, so I had to make mine. This had to be bigger than my last trick with the manager. I had to make waves, make a move so big that it would be visible across the whole fucking galaxy. Something special just for him, so I start plotting, and when I say my gears are like clockwork, I ain't lying. I had my plan before the start of my lunch break. You see, Mr. Jorgensen ain't the only investor in this shit heap. Jasper's a pie that's got 1,000 fingers in her and everyone wants the biggest piece. Yukon would have got hold of most of the shareholders if it weren't for one little independent miners base set up on Jasper's moon. Real crust-of-the-rim shit, scavengers and rats digging up precious metals to pay rent, but they're fucking good at it, so they got a nice little stash to keep the vermin warm. Wouldn't have been a problem if they had vision too. I'm sure Mr. Jorgensen would have made him a nice big offer. Bet he already had. But see, they got bit by the bug. Started talking union, saying the workers got rights, that they should get cut and a say. Rats ain't got the rights to the cheese just 'cause they eat it. So, I look things over 'cause whatever I do, it's got to show him I know what's going on. Behind the scenes, I mean. Show him I know what he's really doing and what he really wants. And I decide that's my play. The miners. Knock him out, smoke out the rats, set up a tidy buyout. Get him exactly what he wants without there being no way to tie him to it. He'd know it's me, 'cause we're connected like that. It was like they were serving themselves up to me, really. The miners. Maybe they've got good at digging, but with all their ores and precious metals and mining shafts, they ain't got no forward thinking, no planning. They dug them tunnels deep, a fucking cobweb of shoddy workmanship rinsing the moon dry right down to its core. It only takes a little good planning and geometry. You gotta know the blast radius, and you gotta account for those tight spaces and squeezes around the bends. I've always been good at shit like that. I'm good at most things, really. Acquisition, infiltration, wiring and timing. I got it all. I also had me a nice little nest egg. That's the handy thing about not needing to skim off any of my product myself. It's all profit. Use it to get me a little one-man ship, something that looked cheap enough to not draw eyes, but still good on the inside, you know, 'cause this is gonna be my getaway. Funny, it ended up being the thing that almost killed me. You see, for all my sublime plans and quick thinking, well, I was still flesh and blood and neurons firing in a skin sack. I was still too human to do it all perfect. If I'd have been some fucking smooth logic machine, I would have likely set a remote detonator up real fast and had it over and done with. But I got excited. I wanted to see it up close and personal. I wanted my finger on the trigger and I wanted the world to see me do it. And come on, if you were in my shoes, you'd walk the same as me. Ain't no point in denying it. We're fucking cutthroat, me and the rest of the real players. And if you don't want to see the world lit up like a fucking fireworks show, well, I ain't no rat whisperer. Your loss. So yeah, I land on that moon like a fly on the wall. No one sees you when you know how to look unimportant. Clutched an empty clipboard to my chest like I was part of the HR scenery, and they let me in without even bothering to check for ID. I had one, if they had. But the dumb fucks didn't even blink as I stroll in. I know why now. It was because I'm not a fucking person. I'm a storm that creeps over your head and reminds you why you stay inside. You can insulate your little burrows and pray the rain don't seep through, but that ain't gonna stop it pouring. I'm a fucking liquid, I'm fucking smoke between your fingers, I'm the void between the stars, and I'm the pilot of your fucking demise. Ain't nothing gonna think about trying to tell the weather to stop. So I get to the right places, and I plant the right things. And I get back to my ship, and I wait. That was the hard part, you know? Waiting. Everything else weren't nothing at all. Things to do and problems to solve and palms to grease, like playing a game, really. Then all the fun's done, and you just gotta stand there and kill time till all the pieces line up, and that's work. Miners didn't have no sense at all. Announced their board meetings right out in the open, date and time and room and everything. For transparency's sake, they said, like they got to be accountable to the rats. Didn't deserve to keep control, asking for something like that to happen. Did him a favour, really. Trick to being overlooked is to act like you should be. Learned that when I was real young. So I duck my head and I scurry along, right into the meeting room. Through to the back, they got this little kitchen, Faber coffee pot water filter. I must have thought that's what I was there for. To bring them drinks. Didn't even look twice. I get the stuff planted, neat little blocks of custom compound I put together myself, all strictly legal and ordered straight from Yukon. Funny that. Almost like he were helping me. And then I go back to my ship and I wait. They tried to tell me it was my fault, that I miscalculated, made the loads too big. The rangers I woke up to in the hospitals tried to say I put too much of the initiator in, that I blew myself halfway to hell. Liars. All of them. Telling me a load of bullshit, trying to make me feel stupid, trying to get me mad so I'd say something, treating me like I was some void-breathing rat they could bait into spilling. Didn't work. Never does. Kept my mouth shut, like always. I could see right through them, 'cause I know what had gone wrong. I'd seen the lights go red across the flight panel half a second before my head exploded. And like I said, it weren't me. It were the ship. I'm sitting there listening to the arseholes talk about collaboration and solidarity through that sweet little bug I planted, waiting for the moment, one finger on the button, the other on the ignition, ready to blow the charges and get the hell off the rock. My bit. Graphite smooth. Wiped out everyone in the room. Left the miners in a twist, scrambling for someone to tell them what to do. Begged Mr. Jorgensen to buy him out in the end. Didn't find out about that till later, though. 'Cause the goddamn ship went wrong. Alongside of getting rid of the miners, I damn near got rid of myself.
Entry end. 0342 Ganymede Standard Time. Entry begin.
Told me in the hospital I should have died. Like that could have happened. Did a mortar damage though, eyes are goners, along with most of my teeth, jaw broke in 3 places, melted the jumpsuit to my body, burnt the head out of my arms. Never found out what happened to my nose either. Tough break. Real tough. Not near as tough as what happened to the arsehole who sold me the ship, but ain't no one cares about him, so suppose it don't matter, do it? I weren't near so pretty after, except, guess what? My hands? Perfect. Like nothing had happened at all, not even a scrape on 'em, 'cause see, I'm one of them chosen people, a real one. And whatever higher powers sat up there watching, well, they knew I'd still need my hands. Doing my work wouldn't be half as enjoyable if I couldn't feel someone's pulse sputter out underneath my fingertips. The Rangers don't get shit out of me. Not like I can speak with my jaw wide shut and half my face caved in, but they lurk around me like fucking vultures as long as they can. When they shove a pen into my hands and tell me the confession just needs a signature, I let it drop to the floor, and I greet them with a middle finger when they get back up. Until he shows up. Then those vultures spread their wings and scatter, like the scared fucking scavengers they are. I don't need to see to feel their fear, just like I didn't need to hear them slick boot steps out of my little isolated ward. The air was marinating in it. Let me tell you, if there weren't a few bolts and restraints keeping my face in place, it would have split open with a grin. He says the name Omar gave me. Silly bunch of syllables that don't feel like anything other than a collar, and I do my best to shake my head without sending bits of my teeth flying. It's like we don't need to speak, because he gets it without a word. We'll talk details later, he says, but I wanted to thank you personally for your hard work. I'm not sure why, but blinded and strapped down, I never felt safer than when he said them words. I'd been seen, I'd been recognised, and I'd been congratulated. That was what a real player did when someone made a move they couldn't beat. I had won, and I got what I want. His eyes on my empty fucking sockets, a metaphorical tipping of his hat to a player that might just be his match. The details ain't important. What he said to me in that room stays between me and him until the day they jettison my frozen corpse out to the black. But what is important is I got more reward than I expected. Got my top pick of surgeons. Didn't matter what arse end of the planet they were holed up on. They got to me and they did the best work they could, and not a single credit of it was charged to my new name. People always ask about the teeth if they get close enough to see them. We're going to put in replicas, ceramic. Look just like the real ones, they said. I told them to go fuck themselves trying to pawn some inferior product off on me because they thought they could get away with it. Fucking ceramic. I'm going to put something in me that's no better than what I had before. These, they're titanium. Can punch through a hole, they can. But that's just the start of it. You see, I blew the top of my skull clean off. There wasn't much left to glue back together, so docs needed to think real fast, and they did. There ain't a bone left in my skull. It's a sleek metal curved and inhuman, sat squat on my head like a spider with great metal legs cradling my brain matter. Now, they tried to stiff me with the eyes too, pawn off some organic bullshit on me, but I weren't having any of it. I wasn't going to let them plug in 2 lumps of meat no better than what I had before. I knew what kind of tech was out there, what I could get wired up for me instead. And he said money was no object. They tried to weasel out of it. He said to give me it all should have been the last word. Instead, I have some empty prodding in the holes, clicking his tongue, telling me it won't work. The kind of specs I was asking for couldn't fit in 2 tiny sockets. So I said, make them bigger. In the end, they drilled out a 3rd. Get a kick out of people realising I ain't wearing no fancy helmet and goggles. That's all fucking me, all new and improved. I can see the heat coming off of some scared fuck sweating carcass when he thinks he's hidden from me. I can turn off every damn light in the ship and walk through with no problem while the rest of yous are flailing around blind. I got fucking targeted vision, and if you thought I was a good shot before, well, oh, you're in for an absolute treat when you see me now. Yeah. I'm well equipped, and fuck me if I know how I ended up here. Reckon I'd be hauling around a 2-show rat back to base and be on my merry way to the next job. Didn't figure I'd be sitting in lock-up on a rock on the arse end of the system, telling my story into a column like the gospel while UConn falls to shit, and ain't nothing to be done. Should have seen it coming, the storm that came to take down the moose. Something had to be on its way, or else we're getting nervy, using his name, speaking his words, like they had the right to hold them in their filthy mouths. So, UConn blows to shit about the same time as my ship, and well, Rangers found me drifting out in the black. Bastards seemed happy to see me once I ran my identifying marks through that little database of theirs. They thought they got me, this time for real, this time for good. But no. You know, I think I get it. This was a lesson, you see? Sometimes, even when you're on the top, some fuckers beneath you are still making grabs at your boots. Sometimes you get too confident and you let idiots make a fool out of you. Some theatre-loving fucking void feed think they can get away with crossing me. Sure, I got fooled, but I don't forget a name. And those idiots were too stupid to use fake ones. In fact, shit, some of you didn't even try to stay low. You think just because the company's gone, that there ain't no gears clicking away behind the scenes. Natural order of things is turning on its head and there ain't no one pushing back, so I got a job to do. One he tapped me for way back on Jasper the first time we met, and I'm gonna do it for him, get things back in order, fix the world up for him so he can get back to work and I can get back to helping. But there's something I've got to finish first. A little bit of exterminating, debts to settle with some rats that think their lives are as worth as much as people. Oh, I'll be seeing you real soon, Gerst. Real fucking soon.
Entry end. White line backup system terminal recording. Serial 18847G. User ID P1L0T. Session terminated.